Welcome to the Sheckler Spotlight, where creativity meets purpose and conversation goes deeper. Join host Harrison Sheckler as he sits down with inspiring guests from all walks of life, artists, thinkers, musicians, and everyday heroes, to explore the stories that shape us, uplift us, and connect us. Now here's your host, Harrison Sheckler.
Hi, I'm your host, Harrison Sheckler, and today's guest is nothing short of Kansas City royalty, on and off the field. He's a hometown legend who spent 18 seasons with the Kansas City Royals, winning 8 Gold Gloves, an ALCS MVP, and helping bring home the city's first World Series title in 1985. But his impact didn't stop when he hung up the glove. From humble beginnings, he rose through the Royals Baseball Academy, becoming one of the greatest defensive second basemen in MLB history, and later transitioned into broadcasting, coaching, and now civic leadership. As the current Jackson County executive, he's guiding the heart of the city he helped put on the map. Today, we'll explore his journey from the ball fields to the halls of government and his enduring love for Kansas City. The spotlight is now on you. County Executive Frank White, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Harrison. It's awful nice to be with you today.
It's an honor to visit with you, and so thank you for your time today. I'd like to begin. Just what's your origin story? Where did it all begin, and how did it lead you on to this path and love for baseball?
Well, it started in Greenville, Mississippi, where I was born, and I moved to Kansas City when I was in second grade. I grew up here, but then we spent a lot of summers back in Mississippi, so I had an opportunity to live with my grandparents. I did some of the things in the late 50s and early 60s, like picking cotton and stuff like that. That wasn't too much fun. I've got 3 photos in my office. I've got one in my baseball uniform, one of the 2015 World Series, and then there's another of a lot of people in the cotton field picking cotton. And so people would say, "Well, why do you have this picture on your wall?" I said, "Because sometimes in politics things get tough." And then I look at that picture and I say, it wasn't that tough. And so it's sort of brings me back to balance. And so, but that's where it all started. And my dad he loved baseball, and we played a lot of baseball, amateur baseball. And then I came to Kansas City, and when I was old enough to start playing baseball around 9 years old, then I just fell in love with it. Because back in those days, it was either baseball, basketball, or football. That was it. And baseball was the number one game in America during that time. And so I just fell in love with baseball.
So who were those, you said your dad played some baseball. Who were those early influences, or let's say baseball idols, that you watched growing up?
The earlier ones was, when you go to the drugstore, they had bats in the drugstore, had different players' names on the bats and things like that. And some of my early, you had Hank Aaron bat, Mickey Mantle, and as I got older, Frank Robinson was my favorite player, and he's the reason I wore number 20 as a player. But I was really fortunate to be able to play against some guys coming out of the 60s into the 70s, and guys like Clemente and Stargell and Willie Mays and those type folks. So it was really kind of easy to fall in love with those guys because they were all superstars, and they were all guys of color that I really looked up to, and I really listened to their careers, like Hank Aaron coming from the Negro Baseball Leagues to MLB, like Frank Robinson. I was playing when he became the first black manager in baseball, and so just seeing all these guys just do some great things, being able to see Larry Doby sitting on the bench as a coach with the White Sox. So there's a lot of great things that I was a party to as I came through the early 70s and seeing some of those guys coming out of the 60s still playing, and just being able to play against Johnny Bench and Pete Rose and some of those stars. I mean, just so many great stars back in those days to play against.
Well, and I think it's pretty amazing that now you can say you're one of those stars. And, you came from those humble beginnings, and it's just amazing the career you had. And I love how you mentioned Frank Robinson. So my dad's favorite player growing up was Frank Robinson, and he wore number 20 for everything. And so, my hero is my dad. And I wore number 20 for all my baseball,
Oh,
football,
wow.
everything. So we have the connection with number 20. I think it's a good number. And going back to your dad, and so he also played in the Negro League, or was it the Negro Southern League? Is that right?
He played a little bit in the actual Negro Leagues.
Uh-huh.
I believe he said it was he had a try with the Memphis Red Sox back in the day. I don't know how long he played, he was in the military, so he when he came out, he was playing baseball at the time. But I don't know if he really had a chance to really delve into it to try to go as high as he could go because he was married with kids and those type things. But he taught me everything I knew about baseball. He taught me how, when I was 12, he, uh, he would come to the games and watch me play. And if I was pitching that day, chances are he was going to get kicked out of the stadium because he didn't do well with the umpires. But any other thing I did was fine. But when I was 12, playing on a really good baseball team, and after the third game, I hadn't played. And then he, in the middle of that third game, he just grabbed me off the bench and said, "We're out of here." And so 12 years old, I'm embarrassed. I'm kicking and screaming like most 12-year-olds would. But then when I got home, I finally asked him. I said, "Why did you take me off the team?" And he said, "Do you like baseball?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Do you love baseball?" And being a 12-year-old, I said, "Yes." And he said, "But do you understand baseball?" And I said, "I think so." And he says, "Well, how can you understand baseball and like baseball and love baseball when you don't play?" And
Mm.
I didn't have an answer. And so he took me and put me on the worst team in the league. And we didn't win much, but I played every day. And that's when I realized I had a passion for the game and learned to love the game even more. So it's better to participate than to sit on the bench and root for everyone else.
Yeah, well, because you have to learn in the process, and that's how you grow.
Yes.
You can't sit on the bench. So when was that pivotal moment of when you thought it could maybe turn into a career? Because you have the experience with the Royal Baseball Academy. Can you kind of just give some background on how what that journey was like?
Well, from the time I was 14 to 18, I always played on two teams. I played on my age group and I always played an age higher, knowing that in the older guys, I'd get beat up a little bit, but eventually I would catch up. And I was 18 and I still hadn't got any scouts coming and looking around. And we didn't play high school baseball. And so all I had was those 30, 35 games in the summer. I played high school football, basketball. And when I was about it was June of 1970. I was going to my 20th year, and I said in the Royals. This when they had the tryouts for the Royals Baseball Academy, and so I talked my boss into a couple of days off to go try out for this team, and so I went down to Municipal Stadium in Kansas City and had 300 boys there trying out. That's how popular baseball was. And they had us hit, run, throw, all those things. And then they called me back for a second day. And after the third day, then Mr. K called and said, "I'd like you to go to the baseball academy." And I had no idea what this was all about. I was married, had one kid, and I was making $100 a week on my job, and it seems like a little bit. 1970 was a little more, wasn't too bad. And so I said, "Well, how much is it going to pay?" Because I got a family, things like that. But what I didn't realize was that families, married people, weren't allowed to be a part of the academy. And
Oh,
so and so I said, "Oh my goodness!" I said, "Well, I can't go because I'm married. I got my son." And he said, "Well, but we really want to have you be a part of this team." And so what they did was they gave my wife a job at Municipal Stadium, which was located at 22nd and Brooklyn, in the ticket office. And she moved in with my parents. And then I went off to Sarasota, Florida, to be a part of this baseball academy.
wow. Well, I think that's awesome that they were able to work the family aspect in it. And I mean, they really
Right.
wanted you. I think I read, was it only three people from that tryout made it?
There were eight. They took eight players
Eight. Okay.
from that tryout. Yes.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah,
So
and
from oh,
they
go
held
ahead.
they held these tryout camps all over the United States. And Mr. Kaufman, when he bought the Royals, he was trying to figure out how many different ways do we have to find players? And
Hmm.
the scouting system wasn't that sophisticated as it is today. And so he said, well, I've got to find a different way to find players. So he held these tryout camps all over the United States, mainly just looking for good athletes. They didn't have to play baseball, or they just had to be able to be a good athlete, run, throw, uh, those type things. And so the goal was to get 50 players with a combination of fielders, pitchers, that type of thing, and put us on our own complex in Sarasota, Florida. We had 5 fields. We had our own staff, our own training staff, our own cafeteria. We had everything self-contained, and then they bring people in to help you learn baseball. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they brought in like Jim Lemon, who was a great hitter from the Senators, and we had a pro staff, mostly Senators players like Chuck Staub and folks like that. And we had they brought in Ted Williams to talk to us about hitting, uh, Mickey Vernon to talk about hitting. I mean, it was just amazing. Uh, the type of people that were bringing in to teach us about hitting and things. It's sort of like a big experiment. When they left, everybody tried to do it like they would do it. Eventually, your own talents kind of came out, and but that what I got out of the academy, other than uh, a junior college education, was fundamentals. You
Mm.
know, you have the talent, you have the ability, but you don't have the fundamentals down as that can make you better. So fundamentals is what can get you over the hump. So we did these fundamentals every day, 6 days a week, and then even on Sundays because we only had one television with 50 guys. So I'd go out to the handball court and I'd throw the ball off the wall, work on my fielding, things like that. And that was really the thing that really got me going because when I signed, we all had to sign minor league contracts.
Hmm.
So I basically was an outfielder when I got there. And the first day we had a scrimmage game, we needed a third baseman. So since I played everywhere, I said I'll play third base. So I ended up playing third base for 6 months. And then the shortstop was sent home for disciplinary reasons. So I moved to shortstop. And so I came through the minor leagues as a shortstop. But I really the fundamentals were so important because I was a month from turning 20 when I went to the academy. And at 23, I was in the major leagues. And I was in the major leagues as a backup player because I could play third, short, second. And fundamentally I could do things, I could bunt, I could move guys, I could hit behind runners, things like that. So we learned all these things in the academies, which made me put me far ahead than most people.
So entering the MLB, what is the difference in the level at that time? So from the minors to the majors, was it like a shock, or did you feel like, nope, this is where I'm supposed to be? It feels good. Like what was that first experience, that first season in the majors?
It was scary. I mean,
Yeah.
it's scary. Because you're sitting. I mean, you didn't have a lot of TV back in those days,
Hmm.
and so you either had the game of the week on Saturday, or you had your transistor radio at night, listening under your pillow, that type of thing. And I, for me, it was shocking because I got a chance to go to spring training with the guys, and I was the last player cut coming out of spring training, and so you go back to AAA, and you get that first phone call. It was June 12th, 1973, and the general manager saying, "Hey, we're sending you to Kansas City. Freddie Patek pulled a muscle. They need a shortstop," and I hung up the phone. Because guys play tricks like that all the time.
Sure, yeah.
So he calls back and he says, "No, I'm serious. You're going to Kansas City. You got to be there in time to catch the plane to Baltimore." I said, "Baltimore? Oh, that's where Frank Robinson plays." So I was
Yeah.
excited, and so I drove from Omaha to Kansas City and right to the airport. Got on a plane, went to Baltimore, and that's how it started. But it was very intimidating.
Do you remember your first game?
Yeah, yeah. I came in the game. It was the seventh inning. And Baltimore it's an old city field like Municipal Stadium used to be right in the neighborhood. And you had this lights were like right on top of the stadium and didn't have the high standards like they have today. And so the first ball I got was a high hopper off the bat. I lost it in the lights. It hit me in the chest. And I said, "Oh my God, what a start!" So,
Welcome to the
but
majors.
yeah, that's about it too. But I got a chance to really be impressed right away because Baltimore was a very good team back in those days. I mean, they were the Yankees of the East Division, and they had oh man, some of my like Brooks Robinson, Mark Belanger, Dave Johnson, Luke Powell, Paul Blair. They had oh boy, Dave McNally, Jim Palmer,
The
all
whole
those
team.
guys. It was. I mean, they were like great. I mean, they had a Gold Glove infield, and they had a center fielder that was Gold Glove pitcher. And it's like, man, this is unbelievable. So that's when I really had that. I really developed that strong love for defense because I wanted to be the best second baseman that I could be once I got a chance to play every day. So I came up in 73, then in the winter 74, 75, 76. Then I went out of the country to play in the winter. I played in Venezuela 2 winters in a row. I played in Puerto Rico the third winter. And then when Cookie Rojas retired, then I moved into second base to play second base every day. And that helped a lot.
uh, Going through the Royals organization and being with the team and seeing it change over the years, I'm curious. So let's say when you started your career to 1985, when you have the big World Series championship,
Mhm.
did you see a change in the Royals organization and management and just how like where it got to that 1985 season?
Well, I mean, we were an interesting expansion team.
Mm-hmm.
We came in 69 as an expansion team. And as an expansion team, we never finished in last place. So so they made steps like in 70, 71, 72. They brought in people like Cookie Rojas, Freddie Patek, John Mayberry, Amos Otis, and then they made trades with Cincinnati for Hal McRae, and then we had that I was coming up in 73 along with George Brett, and then the next year with Al Cowens and Dennis Leonard, and so it seemed like the talent was just coming at a fast pace, and you had good veteran leadership when I got there,
Mm-hmm.
and even though I was a utility player, you could kind of see the team developing. So in 1976, that was the first year we went to the playoffs. I mean, we lost in 5 games to the Yankees, but in '77, then it just started to just get better and better. So we won. I mean, we were in the playoffs in 76, 77, 78, 80, 81, 84, 85, and with 2 World Series appearances. So it just we just had a good long stretch there where we were very good. We were a very good ball club.
So in 1980, you were the ALCS MVP. And was that
Yes.
one of those pivotal moments in your career or a milestone that stands out to you? What was it like being named the MVP?
Well, that was the first year they had that award
Mm-hmm.
in 1980, and I knew I had a good series, but when you're playing with the likes of Willie Wilson and Willie Aikens, George Brett, those kind of guys, and you just don't see yourself as a second baseman winning an MVP award.
Mm-hmm.
But I hit 545 in that series, and they said
And you swept the Yankees, right?
we swept the Yankees in
Yeah.
3 games. And so that was one of those things where, just over the moon. I mean, MVP, I mean, goodness. What else can I say about that one? It was just great. I mean, I remember flying to Philly and we were drinking champagne out of the cup, out of the MVP cup. So that was that was that
Really
was,
good memories.
that was a lot of fun. Yes.
And then, later on in the World 85 World Series, game 3, you hit a home run. Like what were some of the most memorable moments in those World Series appearances that you had?
Well, I think in '80, the disappointing thing in '80 is we really thought we should have won that series because we had a great opportunity to win that, and
Mm,
we had some crushing defeats. Late innings, ninth inning losses to Philly at home after leading 3-2 in the ninth. We lost that game. Going back to '77, we had a lead in the ninth that would have put us in our first World Series. They came back and beat us in the ninth inning. That was really crushing because that's the year we won 102 games. And we
hmm
should have went to the World Series. In '85, I think the thing that I was grateful for in '85 was that in 80, I think I may have only gotten like 2, maybe 3 hits in that series. Played a great defensive series, but offensively, I thought I should have done better. And just getting another opportunity in 85, I was a better player. I was a more valuable player because I had gone from batting 8th and 9th to hitting 4th, 5th, and 6th. And in 85, I hit 22 home runs, and we couldn't use the DH that year. And so Dick Hauser called me in and said, I want you to hit 4th in the World Series. And my jaw dropped. So you got to be kidding me. What about Brett? What about somebody else? But George wanted to stay in the 3rd spot. He didn't want to move. And so I said, well, Dick, I'll bat 4th. I said, if I do well, they're right about it. If I don't, they'll say I shouldn't have been there in the first place. But I just went in there just being myself. I didn't want to try to be a power hitter or anything like that. But I was able to hit a home run in Game 3, and we ended up winning the series, and I led the series in RBI, which was like a feather in my cap. And then also I found out that there was only one other second baseman in American League history to bat 7th in all. Bat 4th in all 7 games of the series, and that was Jackie Robinson. And so
Wow.
they made it even more special. So.
That's amazing. So speaking of Jackie Robinson, there's Jackie Robinson, his number's retired. Your
Yes.
number is retired with the Royals because you had such a legendary career and were so impactful in those World Series and just the early, stages of the organization.
Right.
When how did you find out that they were going to retire your number? And what does it mean to you to have your number retired with the Kansas City Royals?
When I first came to the major leagues, it was hard to envision how long you would play. You're excited to just get there, and then you got to figure out, okay, how can I stay here?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the early work that I did before I started playing every day really helped me adjust right away, because I went to my first year, I won a Gold Glove. I won the Gold Glove my first 6 years, and the offense was slowly catching up to the defense. And the play 18 years in your hometown, where you don't have to clean your locker out at the end of the year, and it was special to me because my parents got a chance to see me play a lot. My friends got a chance to see me play a lot. And you had a chance to build goodwill in the community over the years. And I think just winning and being humble and just understanding that, like my dad always said, you meet the same people going up as you do coming down. So just know that you can't do this forever. So you have to treat people like you're every day. You don't want to be too high on one end and too low on the other end. You just want to be yourself. And so basically you just take what your parents instilled in you growing up and just be gracious and go out, have fun, and try to play the game the way that your teammates helped you learn how to play early in my career, and just pass it on to the next guys coming up. And just that's why I learned leadership. Leadership came by playing second base, and up the middle of the diamond that's just an area that they can't control from the bench. They can move you left and right a couple steps, whatever, but the thought processes that go into it. Who's going to take the ball back to the pitcher? Who's going to cover on a steal? All these things, the two players in the middle have to, you're game managers, so you manage the game, and making sure that the outfielders throw the ball to the right base, make sure you keep the double play in order, things like that. When I watch games today, and I see catchers' throws go into the outfield, and I'm saying that shouldn't happen, because a middle infielder's job is always even more important than tagging the runner out. Your main job is stopping the ball, because the play stops right there. So when you try to make a fancy snag or whatever, and you miss the ball and it goes out in the center field, now the guy goes to third base. So your main job is stop the ball, and you got to be game managers. You can't try to be tricky. You just got to be game managers. Keep the double play in order, Save yourself 90 feet at all costs. And I always was upset with guys that the outfielder's got to throw a ball 200 plus feet to you at second base. And rather than just run up a couple steps and catch the ball, or back a couple steps and catch the ball, you try to make a fancy tag and the ball gets by and the guy's got an error, and it just doesn't make sense to me. But we're game managers and we just have to approach it that way.
I think that's great advice and a great outlook on um, one, the humbleness of you're very humble, man, for having such a tremendous career, and so it's inspiring. And then what you give back too to the community and the players. I mean, after post baseball, you've still done some coaching. You've helped with the Monarchs, and coaching other leagues. But what do you see like in baseball today? How would you say the game has changed? We obviously have some rule changes. I'm interested to get your perspective on that. And do you see a change or in the approach of the mentality of current players on how they approach the game compared to the 80s?
Well, the only thing I see different today is that the adjustability of the players, the ability to control the bat. Most swings are kind of grooved. When we came up, we were taught to try to stay above the ball, try to meet the ball more out front, and where these guys try to get a little deeper. We were able to maneuver the bat a lot better on hit and run situations, on bunting situations. That was a big part of the game back in those days. Where today, it's many more strikeouts. The launch angle is something that they talk about, which doesn't make sense for guys who can hit the ball out of the ballpark to have a fly ball launch angle, where we just were taught to hit line drives and eventually want to go.
Right.
But I think it's just a philosophy that when I came up, coaches and managers told you what you had to do. Where today guys come up, they're a lot richer, and they probably don't listen quite as well because they're all great somewhere. And to make that change when you get to this level, they would take us right away and say, this won't work now, but it can work a little bit later. This is because my first year, Charlie Lau, my hitting coach, just gave me a R161, which has a fat barrel, and then he said, "This is choke up a little bit and just put the ball in play." And so striking out 100 times for us was like committing suicide. I mean, nobody wants to strike out 100 times. You've always gonna have one, maybe your bigger guy that hits home runs. They're gonna strike out a little bit more, but guys like myself and George and McRae, and I mean, striking out 100 times just wasn't part of our game, because when you get to 2 strikes, we shorten up, try to put the ball in play. We weren't trying to hit the ball in the ballpark on every swing. And I think fundamentally overall, the players of my day, I think, were better because they could do more things. But I think today's game is more about marketing. It's more about selling yourself to the crowd, and it's showmanship. I mean, when we had a home run in my day, we were professional going around the bases, and we didn't want to show the pitcher up. And where today, guys got their own little routine that they get for base hit. They get a routine for when they hit a home run. But we always said, what's the score on the board? So if you're losing by 5 or 6 runs, then all this stuff on the bases that they do don't make no difference, because it's all about the game. We were all about winning the game and not about the showmanship part of the game. But that's part of it. They do it in college and it comes to the major leagues, and so there's not much you can do about it because fans love it. I think all the players have adjusted to it, pitchers, catchers, whatever it might be. And I think it's part of the game now.
It's interesting. And then there's other adjustments too that, they have the pitch clock. What's your opinion on like the pitch clock and messing with the timing of the pitcher? Are you for pro pitch clock?
Well, back in the day, we would mess with the timing of the pitcher just by stepping out of the box at the right time. but surprisingly, the 20-second pitch is in the rule book. It's been in the rule book for a long time. They just didn't enforce it. And they're just enforcing a rule that's already in the rule book. and I think it's really sped the game up a lot. And I think that's been a good it's been good for baseball because we used to play games and hitters would take all day to hit. And you say, just get in the box, and so I think it's good that it does speed the game up, and I think it's good for the crowd, it's good for the fans. They don't have to be there, 3 or 4 hours watching the ball game. They can get out there in 2.5 hours and be done. So I do like that part of it.
Yeah, I think it's overall that's maybe one of the changes that I'm personally for. Everyone's happy. The players are happy.
Yes,
They can win a ball game, go home in a good amount of time, and then the fans have a good time too, and they're not sitting
that
there
is true.
for a long time. Though, did you have a chance to watch the home run derby at all? I don't know if you did, but
I did
yeah.
watch.
So they ended with a tie, and then they had a tiebreaker of
Yeah.
testing out. It was like a home run derby off. Well, not the home run derby. Sorry, the All-Star game. They had a home run derby to decide the All-Star game this
Oh,
year.
I
So
didn't see that. No, I didn't see
yeah,
that
yeah.
part.
So because it
No.
was tied, and they were testing out that they had each manager picked three players to go up against each other, and they only had three swings each. And
Oh,
yeah, Kyle Schwarber was the decider for it, and so he, three swings, he got three home runs, and they the NLCS or the National League, they won the American, or excuse me, the All-Star game off of home runs.
yeah,
To break it up.
I didn't watch. I watched the actual home run derby, but I didn't watch the game, so I missed that part of it. Yes,
Yeah,
wow.
so I'm interested in your perspective because I think they test some of these rules out at these particular moments, like the All-Star game, to see if it would maybe work. Well, what are your thoughts on ending rather than going into extra innings, ending a game with a home run derby?
But okay, but who gets the loss?
Hmm?
Who gets credited with the loss? What pitcher on the mound? Somebody. What are they going to credit the win loss to? I mean, it's like it's just like the rule they have now where they put a runner on second base.
Yeah,
I mean, already you put the pitcher at a disadvantage.
right.
So if they're going to do that, I would like to see them do something with the one loss. Don't I would say don't penalize the pitcher because you put a guy on base that he didn't let on base. So I wish they had a way of putting that in a different category. It's sort of like the home run derby thing. Okay, somebody's got to get credit for one loss. So what do you do with it? So I mean, I don't. That's the part I don't like about it because the pitcher suffers in both those cases. So I don't know. That's a tough call.
Yeah, I
But
didn't think of it that way.
I do wish that they would. If they're going to change rules, then I wish they would change them in a rule book also.
Mm-hmm.
Because when they went to the 7 inning double headers, and it was a pitcher from the Giants, I believe, left-hander, threw a no-hitter in 7 innings. He was the one that beat the Royals in the World Series. I can't think of his name right now, but he pitched a no-hitter, but it didn't count because it wasn't 9 innings; it was 7 innings. So if you're gonna experiment with rule changes, and change them in the book just in case something great happens, so you don't just what does those stats go?
Right.
So I don't know.
It's almost a different game now than it was when you were playing. Almost like very different in a way.
Right.
Um, and then they also have replay. We have the chance for replay. Are there any moments in your career that you wish you could have replay?
No.
No, you're happy. You're like, okay, it ended up exactly how I wanted it.
No, it's not that. It's just that. I mean, I don't mind replaying home runs, but I don't think we should be replaying steals at second base or third base or close plays like that. I mean, I think that I'm from the old school where the umpire's involved, and if you don't always agree with the umpire, you're gonna have managers arguing with umpires, that kind of stuff. I always think that was part of the game. That was part of the exciting part of the game. But the umpires are pretty much being taken out of the game.
Oh yeah.
Next year they're gonna have automatic pitch things, and so they may be out of the game in a short period of time because they keep working towards the perfect game. And I don't think baseball is designed to be a perfect game. I think it's designed to be objective. I think it's time, and I think that more times than not, umpires are right. But like I say, it's a game that everybody's starting to play with and experiment with, and I think the professionalism of the game, I think they're losing a little bit of that. But I don't know where it's going to stop, and
For
that's
players coming up, what's your advice from your perspective, of where it was more, let's say, a gentleman's game, where,
uh
with the respect and the approach to it? What is your advice to the players that you coach, and then also these younger players and younger generations that are going to come up through the leagues?
Well, my advice would be that you got to be yourself. You gotta learn. You got to be able to listen. You got to be not afraid to ask questions and get the answers to your questions. I know when I came up, veteran players wouldn't talk to you unless they talk to you first.
Hmm.
And so one day Cookie Rojas was made a play at second base, and I was curious about the play, and I said, Cookie, can you tell me why you didn't make this play this way? Why you made this play? He said, well, he wouldn't even answer me, wouldn't even look at me. And I made my mind up that I was going to ask this question every day until I got an answer. But finally, so finally, after about the third time I asked him, he said, I'm going to be managing a team in Venezuela this winter. Come play for me, and then I'll tell you what you need to know.
Oh,
And
wow.
so that was my challenge. So I took the challenge, went played for him, and we worked out every day. And they just, sometimes you get challenges you have to accept. But I think that players, they're going to come up in this environment because that's kind of how it's taught from college to major leagues now. And I don't think that other than they have to listen and learn and watch and pay attention. I don't think they're going to be much different. But you're always going to have some players that are a little more reserved than others, and some that's a little more respectful than others. Some who pay attention to the score on the board before they do what they do, and those type things. Because sometimes you can be labeled a selfish player when you celebrate your accomplishment when you're 9 runs down or whatever. But I think that being a good team player is not only a fun thing to be, but it's a good thing to be.
I think that's great advice. So you've had your amazing career, you've had the coaching experiences, and you also had broadcasting experiences.
Oh yes,
From
yes.
going from playing baseball to broadcasting, what were some of the challenges of that new endeavor?
Well, when I left the game, I actually managed Double A baseball for 3 years. I managed Alex Gordon and Billy Butler and Zach Greinke and Hoshaver and those guys.
Great roles.
Uh, and I, you know that's interesting. I mean, just being able to go into the booth and just try to, I think that my biggest lesson I learned when I went to the booth was when you're studying for the game and you're trying to figure out what books to buy and magazines to read and newspapers to read and getting information on different players and reading press releases and stuff like that on players. And then you get into your first game and you listen to your play-by-play guy, and I'm saying to myself, well, he must study the same thing I studied. Because they're talking about the player, they're talking about his family, where he grew up, where he went to school, and all this stuff. And I said, oh my God. And so I said, well, I know what I'll do. I'll just be a coach. So what I did was I didn't get into all the history of the player from a family perspective. And I mean, you pick it up as you go. But I wanted to be a great analyzer of replays.
Mm.
And so I would tell the guys in the truck after a replay, started early because I want to be talking about it coming out of the commercial break so I can get more in. So what I try to do on replays was I try to find something in that replay that the fan at home would say, oh, wow, I didn't see that. Oh, or I didn't pay attention to that. So I was always looking for something that would be a wow factor at home to someone who is learning the game and know why certain things happen and where whether it be footwork or decision making or whatever. And I enjoyed that a lot.
Well, I think that's a good point. Is when you're getting inside the audience's head or the fans'
Uh-huh.
head and giving the answers to our questions, that's when we find it most engaging and enjoying, because we're just sitting on our couch just like, well, why did he do that? Well, we have Frank White to tell us. So
Yeah, right. I wasn't a rah-rah guy. Like if you listen to Rex Hutler, Rex is more animated. He's sensational. But I was more I would say just uh, play-by-play, average Joe kind of guy that just say, hey, this is what's going on. You get excited at certain times, but for the most part, I just wanted to get it right, for the people at home. I wanted to I kind of want to teach them something, when I
yeah.
was when I was there. Yeah.
Well, I think you come off as someone who's relatable, and like I said, you have this humble background that a lot of people can connect with, and you have this love for Kansas City,
Yes.
and you've stayed in Kansas City, and you've decided to and serve your community by going into government. I'm curious, what was your initial mindset of like, why did you want to go into government, stay in Kansas City, and I guess why do you love Kansas City, to put it frankly?
Well, Kansas City it's home. It's where I
Yeah.
grew up, where all my friends are, my family, and it's in the heart of America. So a flight from anywhere is reasonable.
Hmm.
And It was a city that was kind of growing, I thought. But in 1968, when I graduated from high school, after Martin Luther King was assassinated, we had riots here in Kansas City, and I lived on the east side of Kansas City. A lot of our businesses were burned out, and so we lost a lot of businesses that never returned. So when I got out of the game, and I saw a lot of the same things were still in place, even dating back to my high school days, and I said, I always had this wonderment of why things don't get done.
Hmm.
And so then I decided to run for office to find out. And so I ran for the Jackson County Legislature in 1914. I served in 15. And then that following year, the county executive uh, had to resign. And so the legislature appointed me to this job. And I just fell in love with it. And I think being able to affect someone's life through funding or through programming or whatever it might be was a good thing. After my first couple of years, then COVID hit, and then I was able to usher us through COVID and be a leader through that, and really just serving the community in so many different ways was always my goal. I still don't think I'm a politician. I still think I'm just a guy who wanted to make a difference, because when I came into this job, I didn't want to go to state. I didn't want to go any higher. This is just where I wanted to stay, and I want to just make a difference here. So this is my 11th year. There's 1 year left on my term, and I plan to retire after next year and go do something different with my life. But I think being able to serve in your community, being able to be reelected multiple times in your community says a lot about how much people trust you to get the job done. And I really think we've made a lot of good things happen in Jackson County. And I think that it's just you just reach a time where, and as an elected official, you can work your tail off and you can get things changed. And then when you're gone, the next guy can come in with a stroke of a pen and things are right back where they were. So you can be excited for a while, but nothing lasts forever. And you just have to be thankful for the time that you had while you were here.
I think that's a fantastic perspective, and thank you for serving your community for so long. What would you, looking back at it, what would you say some of the lessons that you learned being um, in government service, and what are you most proud of?
I think I'm most proud of the fact that I increase. We have over 1,100 people here at the county, and being able to increase their standard of living. When
Hmm.
I first came in 2016, salaries were $8 an hour for a lot of folks. Some people were leaving here, going to homeless shelters. Some people leaving here, depending on government assistance for food and things like that. And so I immediately spent money to move everybody up to $10 an hour. And then I did a pay study right up the following year. And now everyone here is above $20 an hour. Then we looked at other areas of people's livelihoods. So I took paid family leave from 6 paid weeks to 12 paid weeks, which was most aggressive in the state at that time. And even going at $20 an hour, most aggressive at the state at that time. And so then we added fertility benefits to our health care. And I took a budget that was 74% funded, and now it's 93% funded. So people can be assured that their pension benefits are going to be in good hands when they decide to retire. So I think those are all good. And during COVID, I think one of the things that I really am most proud of is that you had a lot of people in the African American community that didn't trust the vaccine during COVID. And COVID also highlighted a lot of disparities in the city. So I started a program called I Healthy Jackson County, and at that point it was I Healthy Kansas City East Side, and we partnered with University Health, UMKC, and Children's Mercy Hospital, and I spent $10 million to start this program that would help educate people on the vaccine, and at the same time take care of some healthcare needs that have been neglected by a lot of people in our community because they didn't have access to healthcare. And some of those like hypertension, diabetes, STI, and even what is really an issue now is infant mortality. We brought that program together with about 120 community partners, churches and so forth. And we hold clinics throughout the county, and we would educate people on the vaccine. We would have actual doctors at these clinics. In most cases, it gave people for the very first time some control over their healthcare. So through preventive screenings, they can find out exactly what's going on with themselves. Well, the goal was to make sure that first screening wasn't their last screening. And so we want to make sure that and this is our third year of the program this year. And so we just want to keep building it and making sure that people do have access. And so we work closely with University Health, that's our safety net hospital, and we spend $10 million a year with them to help with their uncompensated care. And so those are the things that I think would be legacy proof pretty much. But I mean, even during COVID, we discovered even during COVID that in 2 zip codes, only 1 mile apart, the difference in life expectancy was 20 years.
20 years just from a zip code separation?
Yep, 20 years.
Wow.
And that just shows you how bad things were. And I think that this program has really helped, and people have really taken a liking to it. And I hope that when I'm gone, that the legislature will continue to fund it because we got the right people doing it, and they're doing it for the right reasons. And we have tons of volunteers that help. But I think it's just one of those things that you do because what's the biggest, to me, it's like, what's the biggest community benefit you can give your community? And I think healthcare is the best. I mean, you can put tons of money out there and people are going to spend those dollars, but your health, you got to have your health, because health don't care how much money you have. Health is health, and the better you are, the longer you're going to live, and you can enjoy the money as you go. But that's me. It's about just making people's lives better, and that's what I think I've done here.
I think that's wonderful. So looking towards, when eventually you would retire, what are you looking forward to that? What things would you explore, or is it too early to say?
You see me lean back on that one.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, I've worked since I was 16 years old, and at the end of next year, I'll be 76. And I told my wife that I didn't want to be 80 years old trying to do this job, and I want to be able to leave when I can walk, and And there's a lot of things that I would like to do that I haven't done. I've never seen the Grand Canyon. I'd like to do that. I've never been to Yellowstone. Just there's a lot of things in the United States. Most people want to travel outside the United States, but there's a lot of things in the United States I haven't seen, and that she hasn't seen. And and uh, and I like Niagara Falls. I mean, she's never seen that. I've seen it. So there's a lot of things that I want to be able to do. I've got 13 grandkids,
Wow.
and just a lot of fun things I'm looking forward to doing. But I think uh, I've been truly blessed. I mean, I've been able to beyond my wildest dreams, not only play in the big leagues for a cup of coffee, but to play for 18 years and to be able to come out of that game with good knees, good ankles, good shoulders, good back. It's reasonably healthy. I think I average somewhere around 142 games a year. But I think that it's just I give you one fun fact. In 1972, when they were building Kauffman Stadium,
Mm-hmm.
and we did our minor league season at the end of August. So then we had to figure out what we're going to do until April again to go to spring training. And so I got a job with the union, and I spent 6 months working on Kauffman Stadium as a union laborer. And I left there in April of '73, and then in June I was playing baseball in Kauffman Stadium. So I went from working on the stadium, playing in the stadium. Now we own the stadiums, so it's pretty cool.
I think life's it's a roller coaster. It's an amazing journey, and you've
Yeah,
definitely had
yeah.
one for the history books. I think
It's
that
been
is a
it's been
blessing.
good.
That's a
It
blessing.
really is, and I know now we're the stadiums are trying to decide what they want to do going forward.
Hmm.
They don't know. So that's a big issue that we have to deal with. But you know, I think that one of my moments of I want to say it's not regret, it's a moment of why am I here?
Mm,
It was back when they had the stadium vote,
yep.
and the stadium vote lost by 16 points. It lost pretty big, and everybody's saying that, well, I didn't support it, and it's my fault it didn't pass. And I tried to tell the legislature when they voted that to go on the ballot. I said, guys, we don't have an agreement with the teams. You're voting this on the ballot without an agreement. I said, if this tax passes, they're going to have access to $2 billion over 40 years without an agreement in place.
Mm,
And I said, I can't support that. I said, so then I had to veto it, and then they came in and overrode the veto, and I said, well, guys, that's on you because I can't. So they think because I didn't support it, that's why I lost. I said, I'm not worth 16 points, but I said it was lack of information, it was lack of clarity, and it was irresponsible for the legislature to vote that on the ballot without an agreement in place. So that's kind of where we are today. And that's regrettable. I mean, I could have easily been a ball player. I could say, yeah, let's just run with this thing. But being the head of the county and looking out for taxpayer dollars, I don't think I could live myself to straddle the city and the taxpayers and the county to 40 years of taxes with no agreement in place.
right.
Those are things that's most regrettable. Was that first of all, I don't think they respected my position. I don't think they respected the job that I did as a player to give me the courtesy of at least negotiating. When I started asking for something, then that's when they went around me to try to get it on the ballot without even negotiating at all. But those are things that I look at and say, it could have been better. And if they would have just sat down and negotiated, it could have been better. But now we don't know what the teams want to do at this point.
Yeah. Well, I think it's really refreshing to hear, your own personal side to, some of the political issues. I mean, going into this position that you're not going to please everyone, and
No,
you're
no.
representing the people that elected you and the people of the community. And I can truly see that you really care about the community and you want the best for the community, and you're doing it the best way you know how. And The hard part, I think people don't see politicians. I mean, you said you don't feel you're a politician, but they don't. I think people don't see the human side. They have to
Right.
realize that you're human. It's like we're all just trying to do this together.
Well, yeah, I try to tell people that I grew up on the poor side of town,
Hmm.
and I've got sisters and brothers and nieces and nephews and cousins, and I got a lot of people, a lot of family. So when I make these decisions down here, it's with them in mind also, and that's why you have to make the right decision. It's not about doing what the political thing says. It says, oh, what's the right thing? And it's hard to do the right thing in politics because you're gonna make some enemies, but at the same time, you have to be true to yourself and do what's right for the majority. And I think that is because you're not going to get 100% of the vote, and the percentage you don't get will never agree with anything you do anyway. So basically, you're saying I'm making this decision because I know this decision is even going to help them, even though they want to admit it, but it's going to help them also. And so I think that I focus on the majority and focus on what's right, and then we see where the chips fall from there.
I appreciate that perspective, and again, I want to thank you for everything you've done for the community. I'm new to the community, moving to Kansas City, but I love it here. I love the people.
Right.
I want to make this home, and so I'm diving in, learning about all the issues, and um,
Uh-huh.
it's a great city. It's
Yeah,
a
well,
great city.
and it's growing. I mean, it's there's a lot of good things about it, and it's like any other big city. You still have your areas that you have to pay attention to, and remember Jim. You remember Jim Leland,
Yeah.
the
Oh
baseball
yeah.
manager?
Hmm.
Jim Leland told me one time. He said, "You got to know your players. You got to know the ones that you don't have to worry about. You got to know the ones that you can just pat on the back and they get going, and you got to know the ones you got to kick in the butt." And he said, but you got to pay attention to at that time it was 25 players. So he said you got to spend time with every player, but you always have to pay attention to those last two players because those last two players that can cost you your job. Because if you don't put sweat in these two guys, then sooner or later you got to play them. And if they feel like you don't have the confidence in them, then they're gonna do well. And they may be in a place where it may be pivotal for your team. So you always got to put sweat in every play. And that's what I try to do in this job is I put sweat in every decision. I put sweat in every staff member and what they're trying to get accomplished. And like I told these guys coming in, it's not about me. I mean, I've already been to the mountaintop of trophies. But it's about you guys and making you guys better and making sure you guys get the credit for everything we do because you guys are the ones who make me who I am. So even though I make the final call, it's based on good information, and that's kind of how I look at it.
I love it. Well, we're coming to the end of our podcast. And what
Okay.
I do with all of my guests is we do a rapid fire 1 minute challenge of questions. I
Oh,
know this might be one of the most difficult
oh boy.
parts of the interview, but I'll pull up my timer here. It's nothing too fancy. It's just my phone. So we'll have very quick questions. The funny thing is I've had so many people on the podcast from, Grammy winners to professional athletes and politicians, and it's interesting to see how people answer these rapid fire questions because I think they all have a different idea of what rapid is. And so,
Yeah, yeah, I know.
yeah, a rapid fire question could mean one question, not how many questions you answer in 1 minute. So, however you want to answer this is totally fine with me. But I have my timer ready. Are you ready, sir?
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. What was your favorite stadium playing in?
Boston.
Boston. Most underrated teammate?
Ooh, Quisenberry.
Who made you laugh the most in the clubhouse?
John Mayberry.
Did you have a pregame superstition at all?
No.
Top coaching tip for young infielders?
Keep your rear down and head up and hands out front.
Okay, this might be a hard one. Favorite KC barbecue spot?
Gates Barbecue.
Hey, there we go. One word to describe Kansas City.
Famous.
If not baseball or politics, what would it be?
Retirement.
There we go. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Early bird.
And who is the toughest pitcher to hit against in your career?
Woo. Nolan Ryan.
Nolan Ryan. And there is our 1 minute. Sir, this has been an absolute pleasure. I appreciate you taking time out of your very busy schedule to spend it with me for an hour. And it's been just so much fun getting to learn a little bit about your career, your coaching, and just your approach to life, because I think it's really refreshing. And to see the human side of Frank White and why you do what you do and how you love the city. I appreciate it. And I think a lot of people appreciate it. So just thank you for being open and vulnerable with me today. It's been an honor. I really appreciate your time.
My pleasure also. Thank you, Harrison. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening to the Sheckler Spotlight with your host, Harrison Sheckler. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, follow, and share the show with a friend. New conversations drop regularly, so stay tuned. And thanks again for listening and being a part of the journey. Follow Harrison Sheckler on social media and visit harrisonsheckler.com to learn more.